All right, Jamie, I feel like so many people, the story is out there. I think what I love most about your book, I was kind of expecting, I didn't know what to expect, but I didn't know you'd be so transparent. So it was fun to hear about like some of the crazy emails and all the ups and downs and situations. But the thing that where I wanted to start, I was just thinking about like growing up. I grew up in Bergen County, maybe not too far from you. I was looking at like Chester, New Jersey. I grew up in a small town called Waldwick near like Ridgewood, Mawa. And I was thinking about your parents, and I was wondering when you think about like the entrepreneur slash inventor bug that you have, was that sort of like your nature and you think like your DNA, or was that nurtured as you grew up?
I think it was I think it was nature that was allowed to nurture. In terms of like, my brother was totally different than I am and still is. So I think like both, same environment. I think he's like less than 2 years apart from me in terms of age. So like kind of grew up in almost exactly the same sort of time frame. Just totally different person, was like indoors, and I was sort of outdoor, like a feral animal, just running around and building stuff and doing stuff. So I think it is like that's who I was. That said, my parents kind of they let me use tools in the basement when I was a kid, like power tools and all this stuff. I mean, that like looking back, I don't know what they were thinking. Um, but that did lead to what I was able to do, which is like I learned how to be an engineer. I mean, myself, like I just learned by taking things apart and putting things back together and breaking them and cutting them open. So.
That's cool. I think it was also a different time. I was like telling my kids, like back then, we used to just go outside and my parents would just want us to be back by dark. We'd just be on our bikes. And I feel like maybe,
Yeah,
you know,
it's funny. Back by dark is something like, yeah, like that's like now it's like you're tracking with Life 360 your kid to like the millimeter of where they are.
I
And
think my
watching
sister
them.
has like a Bluetooth thing in her son's shoe or something,
Yeah. And
Yeah.
meanwhile, yeah, like I remember like my mom would call around to different neighbors to be like, is he close? They'd be like, I think I saw him an hour ago. He was riding his bike, he was crashing his bike on a bike ramp or something.
That's funny. What would you say is the greatest lesson from your parents, maybe that you wanted to instill in Oliver?
Yeah, I think like definitely a part of it was like treating me like an adult, letting me kind of do that stuff. I've tried to, with Oliver, let him kind of be the person, like, because everyone's different. And so Oliver's not sort of an inventor engineer. Like, he doesn't seem to want to do that stuff, which is fine. And you can kind of tell at a young age, he like loves basketball. So, like, go out and shoot some hoops with him and let him do that and let him, like, and he's now gotten into sports photography. So, just like letting him kind of, but also letting him do it on his own. I think a lot of parents try to push, and a lot of it comes from this college stress of, oh, you have to have the site, you have to do this. Like we want to like put this on your college application, and so they like push these kids into all of these things, and I see all this stress, and I just don't care. Like I don't even care if he goes to college. I mean, I think he's going to, and I just don't care. Like I just like I'll support him to be what he wants to be. And so he has a whole sports photography thing he does. He totally does it on his own. If he wants to stop doing it, he can stop doing it. Like, I'm proud of him that he does it and takes it seriously. But I think it's like I think letting kids do what they want to do and be who they want to be. And I do think like the college stress, all this stuff, we've gotten sort of away from that, and we've forced kids into this stuff that stresses them out. And I don't know, they seem all tightly wound.
Yeah, I agree. I wonder. Yeah, I wonder if my kids will go to college. By that time, I don't know.
I mean, with AI, we've democratized information. So, like, the smartest people in the world are now here. Do you need to go to college? I mean, for very few things, maybe. I think for social, I'd like to see him go to college. I think it's a very good social thing. But if he said, I want to go do something else, I want to go do photography in somewhere or whatever, sure, go do it. Great. I don't think we have to like sort of stick to the plan anymore, to the program that's been set out.
Totally agree. I think failure is a great teacher, oftentimes better than success. I think you would agree, especially in your book. I think you talk a lot about just like not just the odd jobs you had as a kid. I think shoveling horse poop or something, like all these like crazy jobs, but also like the companies, maybe the ideas that you started. And I don't know if like failures are kind of a strange word. Maybe it's like setbacks or things that just didn't materialize to, like a 7, 8 figure exit or whatever. I'm wondering when you think back to those perceived setbacks, What's one or two things that you learned from those experiences that I think you can agree maybe led to the one that materialized commercially?
Yeah, I think it's funny because I really do want to call failures learnings. Um, and I don't want to do it to sort of say I didn't fail because I certainly hit lots of walls. But if you do look like the way that I got everywhere was by learning, and you learn by doing things, I mean, and experiencing. And so, I learned a lot of different things by like failing my way into stuff. I mean, even, Doorbot, like I'd say Doorbot, you could say that Doorbot was a failure of a product. It didn't sell well. It was sort of challenged, but used that to learn everything. And also, I think something I've also been willing to do is be public with my failure or be public. Like, if I created Doorbot and never gave it to anyone, I wouldn't have learned anything from it. And by putting it out in the market, yeah, I mean, I got, with my emails on and everything else, like I got every bit of feedback. Like it was transparent. Like I saw it, but that also allowed us to learn quickly. And I think it's something we've done. My emails on every box still to this day at Ring is we learn and adapt quickly. And in a world of where most of the stuff is software, not hardware, even our hardware is mostly software, like the things behind it are software. I can adapt so quickly when I see this stuff that it is truly like embracing that and doing it and not being ashamed of it. Like I think like because it's funny every time something goes wrong, people are like, oh, like are you upset about this one? It's like you don't like to have things not work perfectly, but I've never been able to achieve something by not stumbling a little bit. I've never been able to
Yeah.
achieve by just putting out a perfect product the day one. Like it's never, and I don't think it can happen because if you're trying to do something better than the market, if you're trying to do something bigger, if you're trying to invent something, it means it hasn't happened before. And so it's not going to be perfect when it comes out.
Yeah. I love that. It makes sense. All right. I got some kind of fun random questions for you.
Great.
Okay. You're in an elevator with a kid who's about 25. They don't love their job. They can only ask you one question because they're in an elevator and you've got to get off. What question do you think they should be asking you?
Well, based on what I just know about them, instead of asking a question, I think they should figure out what they're passionate about and go work on that. You're 20, they're 25, which means they probably don't have a lot of responsibility. I think we've put so much weight and stress on humans at such young ages that I think we don't break out of it and realize like the freedom that we have. Like we're so lucky, and especially to try to do different things. And so it's like, what is the thing that you actually want to do? I mean, I got so lucky with Ring that I was able to work on making neighborhoods safer. What a fun thing to work on every day. Like even if it had failed, at least I got to work on something that was interesting and I cared about. And I think the problem is when you work on something that doesn't fit what you care about, then it's a job and then it's a grind and I get it. Like it's hard to wake up in the morning. And so try to find something that you care about and go work on that.
It makes sense. So hard to put like that extra effort in when you have to fake it.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you're in the elevator with James Dyson, right?
Oh,
You get to ask
now I
him
get to
one.
ask questions.
You get to ask one question to James before he gets off. What
Oh,
do you ask James Dyson?
wow. That's like I love this setup. I mean, James Dyson is my overall like I've always said he's my mentor. I just haven't met him yet. Um, God, what would I ask James Dyson? Um, I'd kind of want to know what his thought process is when he goes into another market on something like you, because he's gone
Ooh,
from vacuum cleaners to hair dryers to, and I know there's a commonality around the motor, but I would love to understand like how he really thinks about it, like what his process is to say like we're going to launch a hair dryer. Is it just that they figured out they could do a better one? Is it that he cared about that market? Like yeah, I kind of want to understand that, but I would I think I'd have to say like I know I can only ask you one question. We're going to ask you 100.
yeah. You know,
Like
the one
I'm
thing
not gonna follow the rules. I'm gonna ask you 100 questions.
totally, you're gonna like press all the buttons so
Yeah.
you stop it off at every
Maybe
floor.
my question would be, can I ask you 100 questions?
Yeah. You know, the one thing I remember of the interview of like the how I built this interview that he did, I don't know if you remember this part of it. But he said at the end that he still vacuums his own house. right? I just thought, like, damn, the humility of this guy who is, billionaire, and I know he makes the best vacuums, but like he could easily have someone else do it. I just thought that was amazing.
It's funny because someone will tell me, like, ask me, like, how do I build a brand like Ring? How do you build something that's like, I mean, because Ring is now a verb. I mean, I mean, it's insane. It's like a global brand. How do you build that? And they want kind of an answer that's more tactical, or like a process or something that you could like, you spend $10 million on this or you do this. And the reality is authenticity is what a brand is. Like when you boil down most brands, and there's always exceptions, but like you boil down like Nike came from Phil Knight. Like it's a real thing. Like he cared about the shoes and the performance, and like they really like there was something there. And Dyson, like you said, like it's authentic. The guy's authentic. Like he cares about this stuff. Like, and so I think that's why Dyson has such a strong brand, is it's authentic. And Ring, I'd say hopefully the same thing. Like we're just authentic about caring about your neighborhood, and that I believe is like that's what creates a brand. It's hard though when I tell it to people, because they're like, no, I want to know like what you did to build it. Like I want to know like where do I spend money to do it? It's like it goes back to that thing I told that 25-year-old in the elevator, just before, is find purpose. Like do something that has purpose. That's where authenticity comes from.
Yeah, I think like the through line of at least my observation, outside of like the hustle you guys have, is just the resourcefulness that is, I think, sort of peaks throughout the journey. Not that the journey's over, but like just there's that whole like Tony Robbins quote, it's not about resources, it's about resourcefulness. Like that just kept coming up, from like
Well,
Super Bowl
good old
ads,
fashioned
Shark Tank.
Jersey grit, man. It's like that's
Exactly.
our Jersey. That's Jersey's that place that everyone always laughs at when you say you're from Jersey. Like what exit? What like are you next to the smoke? The smoke plant? Like it's
Yeah,
like we got to fight. We're gritty. So I think some of it comes from that upbringing of like like we were kind of the suburb, or like the back end of New York City. Like we weren't the like the heroes.
totally. One thing that stood out, you said sometimes the most important decisions are the one you say no to. I love that. When you think of that quote, like what's one thing that comes to mind that you think is like an important lesson for people to learn? Like, hey, this was something you guys said no to, and that in hindsight, that was the right decision.
I mean, and it 100% is, and it 100% still is the toughest thing, because you're a small business. Like we were a small company. A big company comes to you and says, "Hey, we love what you're doing. We want you to make this for us as a private label product." And it's like big company comes to you. You're tiny. Wow, if we could just get the revenue. And then you're always like, if we could just get this revenue, then we'll use it to do this.
Mm,
But the reality is, you'll get distracted. And so it's so hard to say no to something that's going to like your lifeline.
yeah,
But what I've been able to do, and again, I'll say some of it's luck and some of it's maybe a little bit of skill, but with Ring, it was like, we're going to make neighborhoods safer, and we're going to own the relationship with we call it our neighbor, but our customer. And I sort of made that decision early on. And so anything that got in the way of that, I just said no to. And that,
interesting.
but it is so hard. Sorry, my dogs are barking.
No worries.
It is so hard to do that, because you are desperate. Like you do need money. So it's not like it was like I just could sit in my like big chair in my big office and say like you're smoking my cigar or something, like Scrooge McDuck. And no, I don't want to do that. Like it was super hard, but I would say like we're not going to own the relationship with the customer with this one. And that doesn't build value for the company long term. So we're only going to work on things that build long-term value for the company.
I
Um,
was Jamie, I was going to ask you like your decision making. I just felt like you probably have smart people telling you, VCs, whoever, like you should do this, like a million people telling you what to do. How do you, when you think about just like your decision making process of like what to say yes to, what to say no to, is there something that like we can take away from that? I'm sure that's like, there's so you could talk about this for an hour, but
yeah.
like how do you make those decisions?
I mean, first of all, you make a lot of wrong decisions. I think you have to be willing to make a wrong decision and then make a right decision from that. So I think
Mm,
like that's where also it sort of goes to the embarrassing thing of like launching a product and it not working. I think we have to be willing to be embarrassed. We have to be willing to like, yeah, we're gonna do this, and then all of a sudden you're like, you know what? I now have more information. That's a bad decision, and we're not gonna do that. And be willing to sort of to take that heat. I think having a very clear North Star on big things, like I said, like with Ring, we always own the relationship with our, again, we call it our neighbor, but it is our customer from this perspective. And it's around making neighborhoods safer. And so having those North Stars, everyone in the company knew exactly how we were going
Do
to make decisions.
you think the ADT meeting with the CEO was maybe the best thing that never materialized?
I mean, for sure, yes. I mean, at the time, and these are these things that, like at the time I really did. Like I went there and I met this CEO of this, in at the time the biggest company in our space. He's a super great person. It's like, oh, I would love to work with this person, learn, it's like we're tiny and desperate. And I would have loved for him to buy the business at that time. And, I'm thankful they didn't. I don't know if it would have been the right place to put the company, as well as at that time, anyone who bought the business at that time probably would have killed it because it was just so small and fragile. So it's not even about
Oh,
them.
interesting.
Yeah, it's not like them being a buyer or anyone else. It's just when things are small and fragile and they go to like a giant company buys a small, like you see it when they usually buy these small business, they don't really last because it hasn't formed yet enough.
Interesting.
Yeah, by the time we got bought by Amazon, we were big enough to really kind of punch our own weight. And Amazon has been a great acquirer, but I also think we as a business were big enough, had enough momentum that like we could sort of stand on our own.
After that deal went through, um, what have you learned about the relationship with money and happiness reflecting on that time?
I mean, it's interesting, I kind of went from like really zero to a lot in one shot. I mean, because it was like, I mean, I was really like facing sort of like I'd say like I mean like bad times, and then 60 days later, it was very good. So the difference was very clear for me. Um,
You were all in, right? I mean, I think like when
all
someone reads about you online, they're like, oh, he had these other successful companies and
yeah,
his wife works. Like maybe, was there a moment I was thinking as a reader or a listener, like, did, I wonder if he just had like $1,000 in his bank account because he seems like he's all in. And so I
so
imagine the risk reward.
I was so all in, and actually we took it out of the book because it's just like there's it's like as you're doing it, but it was in the book originally, which was I was so all in that I borrowed money from one of our investors when I signed the term sheet with Amazon because I didn't have enough money to pay for the closing party. Um, so that's how all in I was.
Wow.
Now again, I don't know if we would have like gone if Ring had gone broke, which it almost did right before. I don't know if I would have gone like personally bankrupt. I would have been financially like it would have been tough. I mean, it would have been very tough. It certainly, I didn't have like I didn't have anything. I mean, Ring was 100% of my net worth.
Yeah.
Um, and so yeah, that was tough. But I'd say like I mean, I think and I've always seen this with with team members, employees. No matter what you pay someone, they're never going to be happy with that in 6 months. So if you pay someone like they're making $1 a year, whatever, just to like, and now you pay them $2 a year for like a month. They're like so excited to make more money. Like, oh my God, I make like double the amount of money I made, last month. And then in a couple months, they're like, I kind of want to make $3. It's like, and it's human nature. It's okay. Like that's not a bad thing. So then you say like, okay, what drives people? Why do people stay at Ring for 15 years, which they have? Like, because there's a purpose. And so when you work for something that has a purpose, the money, yes, you need to get paid correctly. Like you need to have a correct salary. Like I think it's not about paying people less, but it is about making it so that like why do you wake up in the morning, and it's never going to be the money. Like the money, it's sort of ephemeral. It goes away. The sort of the excitement of it, it's like a steroid injection or whatever. It's like
Yeah.
adrenaline. It goes away pretty quickly. Certainly, yes, I'm happy that I'm able to have the freedom to do things in my life with my family. Like that it is great, and I appreciate that, and I don't want to take that like out of context, but yeah, very quickly you always kind of humans just want more. And so if that's all you're going for, I think that's the people that I meet that are sad that have money are the ones that's all they were really going for was money.
Okay. Fast forward to 10 years from now. I think Oliver's about 24, 25 at that point.
27.
27. Okay.
Yeah, I know. I don't believe it
Time
either.
flies. Yeah. Well, I asked Oliver about you as a dad. What do you hope he says?
Wow. Uh, I mean, I hope he says that I nurtured him to fully achieve what he wanted to achieve for himself, that I supported him. Um, that would be, and that like I'm still his best friend, that we still travel together. Like I hope we're all that stuff, but I think from a macro, it would be that I've helped him to really be who he wants to be.
Love it. What's the best career advice you ever got?
The best, I'd say the best advice I ever got was to be very careful with advice, to that everybody is unique. And I kind of now have repeated it, but yeah, it's like everyone is a fingerprint. Everyone's unique, like just like a fingerprint. Like we're all unique. And so when you give someone advice, you're giving it from your unique perspective to their perspective. And the reality is everyone's different. So I think it's more learn from the world, learn from everyone, listen, like James Dyson, listen to what James Dyson says. But if James Dyson said you should change your cameras to whatever, it doesn't necessarily mean that's right, because he's coming from building other things and doing other things and a different perspective. And so I think the one thing we do get is I think I'd be very careful that when people just give hard advice to someone, that it doesn't, again, for like Oliver, like it's not about telling him to go, do this or do that. It's like helping him to figure out what is best for him to do.
Love it. What's one thing you know now that you wish you knew at 40?
Uh, it's probably around probably investing. I because of how I built my sort of life net worth, everything like was came from entrepreneurship. I didn't really understand the markets, the stock market. Like I didn't really look at it in the right way. And I think, it's like now with like more time and reading Buffett and some of this stuff, like I wish I had compounded more money in like S&P and things like that. So I think like what Brad Gerstner's doing right now with Invest America is such a, I think will become in 20 years, we'll look back and be like, that was one of the most impactful things that any human's done. Maybe you don't even know about it, but like these investment accounts that they're setting up for kids in America, Michael Dell
Oh,
just
interesting. No,
just
I'll check it
donated.
out.
Yeah, Michael Dell just donated $6.5 billion to do this, where they're putting it into the S&P basically for kids in America to compound up so they have like a savings account. But I think it'll also, more than just the money, it'll teach people how to invest, which is like, and I think obviously like it didn't not understand it, but I didn't understand it to the level that I wish I had looking back.
Well, that's saying, right? Like it's harder to keep money than make money in a sense. Like it's easy. Obviously, maybe athletes are the prime example, but
Yeah.
um, that makes sense that investing is definitely something probably
Yeah,
everyone.
and so I'm excited to see how that will kind of work over time, especially as they now expose like all like they're doing like all kids basically born in America are getting these accounts.
What's the nicest thing anyone's ever done for you?
Wow, the nicest thing. People have done really nice things for me. I'm trying to think. That's a hard one. Nicest thing someone's ever done for me.
I could tell you mine real quick if you want to hear
Yeah,
it.
tell me here. I'm like it's like because it's like there's so many things. Yeah.
We were renting a house in the Bay Area, and we had my daughter was like 1.5 or something. My son was just born. And there was a heat wave. He's like, I mean, he's like a month old or something. We had terrible landlords, and I posted it on Nextdoor. There were no portable AC units available in the Bay Area. I would have driven to Fresno. I post this on Nextdoor, and there's a guy I've never met, like 3 streets down, and he's like, you can take my extra unit. And then he proceeded to spend like 2 hours in his garage building like a stand for it. This is a complete stranger. I always think of that. And I try to return the favor to somebody else a few years later, but it was just one where, yeah, you like literally it was like, my son could have got heat stroke
Yeah.
if we didn't figure it out.
Yeah. There's so many. It's funny. There's so many things. Like there's so many things that come to mind of people. Like I mean, one that stands out for me is Mark Schuster, who's was one of our investors. We had some great investors and stuff, but when we hit the wall at the bottom, he was supposed to put money in, and like I'll never forget him. He stopped by my office, and he came over, and he's like basically like we were supposed to put, I forget, I think he was putting $10 million into the round or something. And the whole round blew up because of this ADT thing. And it's like in the book, it's crazy. But he came over and stopped by and was like, listen, we're still in, regardless. Like, and I even know like basically like if I put this money in, like it's dead because like and I said, Mark, you're like, I'm not gonna let you do that. Like you can't just put, just you in. But it was like just one of those like he knew it sort of wasn't. I mean, it ended up being the right thing. So like I guess it wasn't like totally the wrong thing, but it was like definitely like it was much more out of like I need to support my friend than it was anything else. And so that was I think like one story. But there are so many people. I mean, when you're sort of in stuff like this, like both personally and the family, yeah, there's just so many people that have done like you can't get here without the village. Like there's
Yeah,
just so many people that have done so many things for me. And hopefully to your point, like hopefully I've I always think that like, you know, in the end, listen, in the end, sadly, like, or not, I don't, whatever, we all go in the end at some point. And just, I always think of like, the real KPI of life is like how many people show up and say like, that person changed my life. Like, Jamie did this for me at this time
100%. I
and
mean,
changed my life. And it's like, I think that's like, if there is legacy, like that's it. Like, there's not how much money you have is not a legacy. It's how many people's lives did you help?
and people, I mean, people you don't even know. I mean, like our kids are 8 and 10. They're allowed to play outside. We live in a court. They're allowed to play outside, but like the floodlights there, the ring floodlight. So we
Yep.
could see them, still don't trust my son. He's got to be monitored, but like, there's so many people you probably, obviously indirectly
Yeah.
influence. Um, Last question for you. I go back to that Guy Raz interview that you did on How I Built This. And he asks you at the end, like he does everybody, right? I'm sure you remember the question: how much of your success and all this stuff was because of your intelligence, and how much of it do you think maybe was because of luck? And I love your answer. You talk about the lottery tickets, right? Like
Yep.
there's your team. There's like you got to have a good idea, and then there's the effort that you put in. And I'm wondering, when you think about some of the lottery tickets that you earned, what's one or two of those situations that come to mind
Where luck just sort of won the day.
where you put in like crazy effort, and yes, this thing worked out. We were a little lucky,
Yeah.
but
I
it's
mean,
not
Shark
like, yeah,
Shark Tank. I mean, literally like 30,000 people plus applied the year we got in. The chance of a garage company getting on Shark Tank that year, again, just percentage wise, was low. Then look at the percentage chance of it being the largest company ever to appear on Shark Tank, the person going back on Shark Tank as a shark. I mean, like, it's just like, um, I don't care. Again, I've seen so many smart, good people with great ideas who work hard not make it. And that's why I think the lottery ticket thing is the right way to look at it, which is even if you work hard and you're smart and you do the right thing, and like you sort of passionate and to help the world, everything, you check every box. It doesn't guarantee you like if you buy 1,000 lottery tickets, you're not guaranteed to win. You have a higher chance of winning, but you're certainly not guaranteed to win. And I think I worked hard. I got a lot of lottery tickets, so I increased my chance of winning. But I certainly don't think that guaranteed the chance of winning. And yeah, I mean, just Shark Tank. Shark Tank was just talk about something that like sets us apart. It was like a Super Bowl commercial for a startup. I mean, it was just, I mean, it was such a popular show at the time. It's still popular, but back then it was like it was a phenomena in, the US. It was crazy.
what's funny is like we bought probably our set of Ring cameras in 2018 when we bought this house here near Portland, Oregon. And of course we watched every episode, right? So we had
Yep.
seen that. I don't even remember the name, like, but I remember the episode. And so like by the time it was Ring, I just went into Best Buy and I said, I need four. And Geek Squad, hooked me up,
Yep.
helped me set it up. And so like those, yeah, like it's just the investment you made into the brand and into the minds of people, I think at some point pay off, right? When they need it. So hey, I know we're getting over time here. I appreciate you leaning into my crazy
Of course.
questions. I could talk to you for another half an hour,
They,
but
they
this
were
is fun.
great questions, actually. They really, I loved them. It made me really think. So thank you.
Thanks, Jamie. Appreciate it. Welcome to the end of the podcast club. Hope you enjoyed that conversation with Jamie. So many things that stood out to me, but I love the idea about learning from failures, or what he calls just learnings. I remember I was at work and won this big award one time, and people came up to me and they said like, "Oh, how'd you do it?" And I said, "What do you mean?" Like, I failed like 1,000 times. There's so many things I did wrong this year. but I try to learn from it and then just adjust course, literally on the fly. And there's so many lessons from the journey of Ring getting acquired by Amazon, and obviously he's now still the CEO running the company, but he is so resourceful. So outside of just being inspired, one thing I do like about listening to the Audible, reading the book is those kind of times and moments where he was resourceful to find a solution for something. Such a fun interview. If you want to really know the story of Ring, obviously check out the book, but Guy Raz did a fantastic long form interview on how I built this. I wanted to make sure for this audience, maybe you're in the middle of your career, maybe you're thinking about making a pivot. And so the lens that I did this interview through, having 30 minutes, is, hey, let's make sure we get the best career advice from the founder of Ring, Jamie Siminoff. Hope you enjoyed the episode. If you have a moment, please leave me a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to this. I would greatly appreciate it. It helps me do what I do. Until next time, thanks so much.